We begin with some breaking news out of Eastern Europe. After months of stalling, Turkey's president has agreed to clear the way for ratification of Sweden's NATO membership bid.
Completing Sweden's accession to NATO is an historic step that benefits the security of all NATO allies at this critical time.
Follows frantic last-minute negotiations between Sweden, Turkey, and NATO, and it comes as alliance leaders prepare to sit down in Vilnius, Lithuania, for a pivotal summit. For more on the upcoming summit, I'm joined by Poland's ambassador to Canada, Witold Gielski. Ambassador, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
So Turkey appears poised to finally allow Sweden to join the alliance. What's your reaction to this development?
That's very good news, and I'm happy that this news is coming from Vilnius at the beginning, even before the summit starts. That's a very good signal coming from our region, from the eastern flank.
Earlier today, though, it looked like Turkey was going to throw up some more roadblocks, sort of linking its ambitions to join the European Union to Sweden's ambitions to join NATO. What do you think maybe unlocked this standoff?
Turkey is an important political power in their region, but also in Europe, but also globally. So their strategic interests are involve a combination of factors. So the conversations are always, I would say, complicated, multifaceted with Turkey, but usually within the NATO framework, the way I see it, the way I remember it since my times working for the Polish president, we are successful in our conversations with Turkey.
Okay, so we've got some clarity perhaps on Sweden. Ukraine still looking for clarity, wants NATO leaders to reach a consensus in Vilnius, clarifying Ukraine's pathway to membership in the alliance. At this moment, it's unclear what will happen. I mean, does that disappoint Poland that we don't have this absolute clarity on what's next for Ukraine?
We are democratic countries. We never have clarity. Sometimes, you know, it may seem like a problem, but the big topics are always topics for conversations, for negotiations. The Polish position in that regard is very strong from the beginning, as it was strong on a number of topics related to Ukraine in recent history. We are supporting strong progress in the context of Ukraine joining NATO. We believe that Ukraine's position is in NATO, and it will strengthen the NATO architecture in a long term. But there are countries that see it, well, I wouldn't say otherwise, but are not ready to progress. But Poland, as a number of other partners, have been pushing in that regard, and I'm looking forward to the decisions of NATO, hopefully as positive as possible, that will show the political progress in bringing Ukraine closer to the alliance.
Right. Look, the countries that are really close to Russia, they're pretty keen on this. They have a very bullish, view on Ukraine joining the alliance. But you do have countries, notably the United States and Germany, that they still appear pretty reluctant to provide a clear timeline for Ukrainian membership over fear of provoking Russia and maybe broadening things. I mean, what do you make of those concerns and those positions?
I think certain ideas of provoking Russia are more at this point a topic for think tankers rather than people working internally in NATO. For example, the so-called NATO-Russia Act is a topic that is constantly being brought in conversation, sometimes in the media by the think tank community, but this is not something that is in the documents of NATO. It doesn't appear that much anymore. We would like this topic to be erased, for example. So we are done with the conversation, which is useless at this point strategically, knowing what Russians have done in the recent year and a half.
So you completely reject the notion that expanding NATO, fast-tracking Ukraine, these sorts of things would be a provocation to Russia?
I believe, and the Polish government, Polish president believes that there needs to be a very strong political signal sent to the world and to Ukrainians in particular that the open door policy is there, and we are interested in having Ukrainians as close to NATO as possible, and with the perspective of full membership as we are able to negotiate this idea with our allies.
I want to get your reaction to some news that Prime Minister Trudeau made in Latvia, and announcing the plans to scale up the battle group there to brigade strength, or at least Canada's contribution, going from around 800 soldiers up to about 2,000. But it's going to take 3 years potentially to get to that point. I mean, what's Poland's take on the pace of that ramp up?
I like the fact that for our Canadian allies, to do something serious in the region requires coming to the region. The decision on the presence of Canadian troops in Latvia happened in Warsaw in 2016. Mm-hmm. Now we have a significant extension of Canadian presence in the region, and it's happening in Vilnius, just behind Polish border. So I have a very positive opinion about that decision. This is a needed decision, a strong decision, and I can only hope that it will develop quickly. I know from my conversations with Canadian partners that the conversations on the levels and on extending the presence of Canadian soldiers in Adaži in Latvia has been going for a number of months in a very significant manner. So my sense is that this is a serious declaration, and this is a declaration which is backed with real intentions.
Okay, you call it serious and backed with real intentions. There have been some whispers from people in the alliance that it's taken a bit too long, that this may be too slow. Do you think the pace of it sends any kind of a message to Moscow, or does the commitment send the message that's important?
Well, messaging is important, and that's why we need to move forward as quick as possible. So, this is a commitment at this point. The NATO summit is about commitments, and this is the way it works. Sometimes it requires an additional summit to put the commitments in place, and this is the case with this summit, which role, among other things, is to put in place or extend commitments that have been taken place in the previous summit. This is not something that I personally like, and I hope that all the commitments taking place in Vilnius this time happen as quick as possible. But again, we are democracies, we are in the mode of conversations, and our decisions require a little bit of time for implementation. There is little time in this case, because the eastern flank needs to be protected and secure even stronger as soon as possible.
Just as a final point, one of the other big commitments on the table at this meeting is everyone to get to 2% and use that as a floor for their spending. Canada is well below that. Most NATO countries are below that. What's your sense of where things will be when they leave Vilnius in a day or so?
Well, we encourage all our allies and partners to extend their commitments. As you know, at this point, the Polish commitment is at the level of 3.9%, more or less, and we are planning to get to the level of 4.3%. So Poland is absolutely one of the leaders in that regard. With our Canadian partners, we are having conversations, encouraging them to step up in that regard in all the political conversations. But in the end, it's an internal topic within Canada.